innovators wanting to reach out to the masses to solve global challenges. These global shapers, with their vision and commitment, have become the symbol of dynamic leadership based on ethics and altruism. The panel will discuss this model of leadership and its potential to effect positive change in the global community. I would now like to invite the discussion leaders for the panel onto stage. The discussion leaders for this panel are Mr. Ketan Deshpande, founder, Friends Union for Energizing Lives. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for Mr. Deshpande, please. I would now like to invite Mr. Min Hin Kyola, global shaper and young entrepreneur. I would now invite Mr. Yaniv Rivlin, program officer at Schusterman. Today's panel will be moderated by Mr. Vikas Bagri. At the Office of the Advisor to the Prime Minister, Vikas Bagri drives several initiatives for the National Innovation Council with a special focus on the India Grant Challenges, India Innovation Portal, Science Museum Clusters, and the Innovation Toolkit. Thank you, sir, for moderating our panel today. May I ask the audience to kindly remain seated? Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Sorry about this little time issue, but what we're trying to do is we'll just take 5 minutes each of us. We can do questions over lunch. So we're targeting next 20 minutes to wrap this off. And you've already got the introduction. I'll request Yarin to start, and we'll just go in this order.
I'm last.
Okay. So you want to start?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll just do this very quickly. Just 20 minutes more, patient. We'll try and finish this quickly. Thanks.
So I'll be, can you hear me, guys? Yes. No. Hello? Can I be audible? Yes. Okay. So basically, the theme of our discussion today was social entrepreneurship and leadership. And what we do is we do a career planning for students in India, and been working from last 5 years talking about various opportunities which student has to face and make sure that he's not deprived about the opportunity. And we've been doing this with collaborations with policymakers, members of parliament, and reaching out to 500,000 students every year. So the whole idea of social entrepreneurship is you need to identify a large problem, because if you want to identify a large problem, you will actually then think of its revenue model and all the other aspects. If you identify a very small problem, you actually end up solving the problem very quickly, and then there's no time for the revenue model or so on. So to quickly brief you what actually, how we are thinking of the leadership, is I'll share you a small story. Once upon a time, there was a conference to see that these are world's best drunkards sitting in front of them. And a doctor is told that in front of you there are world's best alcoholic drinkers sitting, and you have to make them ensure that drinking alcohol is dangerous to their health. So doctor does an experiment. He takes a mineral water bottle, puts an earthworm into it. The earthworm jumps and comes out. And he takes another alcohol bottle. He puts the earthworm into it. The earthworm disintegrates and dies. And then he says, "Gentlemen, what do you understand by this?" And one drunkard gets up and says, "If you drink alcohol, there will be no earthworms in your stomach." So, in order to make sure that you have to solve the problem out of the box, in order to think that passion, in order to have that leadership and leader shift, both the skills are required to take the social entrepreneurship further. What I also see and visualize is the problem in our sector is such huge that you need to identify what kind of team you are working with. And as you all know, together everyone achieves more. So if you have a problem along with the team to solve that, it actually replicates and implements a larger solution to make it happen. So when we started doing career planning with the students, we realized that in India, if you get less talk time on your mobile, if you recharge for maybe 100 rupees, you go and fight out to the customer service and ask, why did my talk time was less? But in a similar way, if you get a lesser education, we don't go and fight out saying, oh, I invested so much, but I didn't get the enough talk time which I was supposed to get. The moment we start having the career planning, career doctor process, we'll be able to make this more larger problem solved. So that's what we were trying to do it. So according to me, I think the 4 qualities which social entrepreneurs need. One is passion. Passion as a poison which makes you think every day is the last day of yours and you're going to solve that problem today itself. The second one is, of course, you need to have leadership as well as leadership. So the next generation takes up once you finish trying to solve the problem at a certain level. And then third one, most importantly, thinking outside the box. So you need to identify a problem and give a solution which is outside the box. So I think that's how I will wrap up. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Min. I'm not really much of a social entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur, so I don't think it's very fair for me to come up with leadership qualities and all that for social entrepreneurs. But I would like to put my attention on the role that education can play to inspire and to develop successful entrepreneurial ventures. I think, of course, there are certain basic infrastructure elements that we need in order to have a successful entrepreneurship economy. So examples like access to capital, market-based economy, and what else? Being able to finance and ownership to right to ownership of private property, and etc. So, but besides that, I would also like to emphasize on the role of education, because education to me can inspire entrepreneurship. So by that, what I mean is entrepreneurs are optimists, but we're not blind optimists. So when I decided to become an entrepreneur, there was a lot of risks and costs involved. So even though if you can raise the money from venture capital, there's opportunity cost because you have to quit your job and you have to take on that innovation that you want to do. So there's a lot of cost and risk involved in taking up entrepreneurship. But it's not blind optimism that drove me to do it. I had to understand the macroeconomic situation of the country, of the market. I had to understand the political risks that were involved. And I have to understand how society would react to my product and service. So there is a lot of calculated optimism involved in entrepreneurship. Another thing is education is crucial to help execute this entrepreneurial venture, because the economy is becoming very complex. The markets are becoming very complex. And in order, even if you have a really good product, you need other skill sets like public relations. You need to have a good HR skill. You need to be able to set up a system in your organization that is efficient. And I think, and I'm not saying that only education can help equip us with these skills, but I think we definitely need to a certain level and exposure to a certain level of education in order to be inspired, to take up entrepreneurship, and in order to execute your innovations effectively and to have a successful, sustainable entrepreneurial venture. So that's it.
Okay. Can I have the presentation on, please? Okay, so I've got a very, very difficult task to do. Mission to change the world, and I got less than 5 minutes. My co-speakers saved a minute each, so I'm not challenging them on that. But I'm just trying to take you through a very quick journey of my own life. Last couple of years, there were a lot of our younger colleagues asking me yesterday, how did you get into the government? You did a BTech and MBA, and what happened? And so I thought I'll take it quickly since I have less time. Put in part of the story in the PowerPoint, and then just one key lesson that I've learned in all these last 7-8 years, which is the power of IT. Okay, and so I did my BTech from Dhirubhai Ambani Institute. This is in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. This was. No, he wants to come last. So, yeah. So I did my BTech in 2001. I was privileged to be the first batch of the institution. So pretty challenging. Nobody there to help us out. 1 year down the BTech, I figured out that I don't want to be a software engineer, which is what the course is all about. So I tried exploring other things while I was sort of trying to study, and got into biology and ICT, which inspired me. Ended up in a stem cell research lab in my second year internship. Tried dabbling something there. Ended up in University of Cambridge for an internship at the zoology department, trying to figure out how information and communication works in the fly of an eye. And after that, I got so excited by bio and ICT that I wanted to do a PhD. Came back to India, luckily missed my first round of placements at the college, and also dropped the PhD idea. And then I was there last year of college, not sure what exactly to do. And that's how a lot of guys turn into social entrepreneurs, by the way. That's a lesson. And then I thought, okay, got enough managerial stuff, got some IT background, let's go social. So landed up at the IIT Madras incubator with Professor Jhunjhunwala, tried doing a rural BPO company. Was very, very excited by the idea. A friend of mine and I were both together onto it. We worked 18 hours a day, slept in office, you know how social entrepreneurs or any other entrepreneur works. And in 4 months, I was going through something which I couldn't understand. I somehow didn't like working at all, and this was like my favorite idea. I don't know what happened, but then I figured out the jargon was that I was going through a burnout. Anyways, took some time to come out of the burnout, and then sort of started working again, but then came off for my MBA at the Satya Sai University in Puttaparthi, and that was a life-changing experience. 2 awesome years there doing my master's. Got exposed to human values, to spirituality, to a different world altogether, and how do you look at life differently. Did that, came back to Delhi, didn't want to get into a corporate, and I was just looking around, probably an NGO, probably a startup again, and didn't have government on my mind, but got lucky, happened. Joined the National Knowledge Commission, which was an advisory body to the Prime Minister, worked with Mr. Sam Pitroda and Nandan Nilekani and a lot of others. Again decided it's an interesting proposition. We can change the world sitting here, very important office, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy, the right place. So tried changing the world again, and 8 months down the line, burnout again. So then realized that why is this happening again and again? And I figured out, this was IT. I mean, there's a lot of introspection, there was a lot of talking to my professors at the Satya Sai University. There was a lot of other things, but IT was missing. IT is what drives social transformation. Anybody who disagrees, very quick raise of hands. Yeah? So IT is the key in life, And I've heard a lot of panelists in the morning discussing this, and I'm sure you would have got the message now, so I don't need to spend a lot of time. But I thought some of you would disagree, and I meant a little different IT. I meant inner transformation. Sorry. Yeah. So I was at the right place. I had passion, had the knowledge, skills, some bit of clarity, got interesting mentors like Sam and others, enough family support and financial support. Went wrong once, burnout twice, going on again. And when I figured this out, that it is inner transformation which really drives social transformation. So no point just going out driving social transformation without your own inner transformation. Then I started working on it. And Tolstoy says, everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. So that is the key message which I want to give out. And I've got exactly 0 seconds left. I'll quickly go through the next few slides in the next 30 seconds. Inner transformation is really about getting to know yourself. So when you understand yourself better, you can understand others better. And there were some people who were echoing the same thought this morning and yesterday. You get to understand the problems, the way you want to communicate, the strategy, and all the cool stuff and the tools we talked about. You get to know better once you know yourself better. Inner transformation, a lot of stuff. You got to understand, everybody's saying be selfless, selfless. You've got to understand why be selfless and what does it mean to be selfless? What does it mean to do sacrifice? What does it mean to stay in silence? And how does it all connect? So the key bottom line is the internet first and then the internet and other stuff. This is something which I got from the internet. I'm not sure if Gandhi said all of that, but I just want to draw your attention to the first and the last line. Change yourself, you're in control, grow and evolve. The journey obviously starts with little steps. The first step is to breathe. I wanted to do something here, but we don't have the time, so anyway, I'll move on. Some starting steps, connecting with yourself, creating and recreating your definition of success. As and when you evolve, you'll have newer definitions of success. Watch is a very interesting transformation tool for leadership. Basically, put it on your diary, watch your words, actions, thoughts, character, and heart. Do an introspection every day on what you're thinking, what your actions are, where you're going. And lastly, I want to suggest one of the best books I've ever read on leadership management, social entrepreneurship, which I'm still reading, I haven't got all of it, is the Bhagavad Gita. It's not necessarily taken as Hindu. I believe it's one of the best management guides, and especially by Eknath Easwaran and by Swami Ranganathananji. The Bhagavad Gita is basically the story of this guy, Arjun, who was in the battlefield and, facing a leadership crisis there, was in his moment and had all of these confusions, and Krishna sorted it out for him. So that's the final message. Thank you.
So I know everybody is extremely hungry, and I'll respect that. I'll try to keep it to 4 minutes. I had 5 points, and I'll try to cut them down to 1. I think in order to speak about social innovation and what a social entrepreneur needs, what leadership qualities, I wrote my thesis a couple of years ago at the Harvard Kennedy School about social innovation. And while writing it, I really grappled with thought, what is a social innovator? I read 5 to 6 books, and I read 50 different definitions. And in the end, the one that struck me most was the one by Peter Drucker, which says that the purposeful innovation describes it as a novel solution to a social problem that is more effective, efficient, and sustainable than existing solutions, and for which the value created accrues primarily to society as a whole rather than private individuals. To be considered an innovation, a process or outcome must meet 2 criteria. The first is novelty. Although innovations need not necessarily to be original, they must be new to the user, context, or application. The second criteria is improvement. To be considered an innovation, a process or outcome must be either more effective or more efficient than pre-existing alternatives and sustainable. And I chose that broad definition of Peter Drucker because I really think that the field of social innovation is changing. And Mr. Kemka spoke about it yesterday, but we're living in a global world. We're living in a cross-disciplinary world where we have a lot of powerful networks that we need to use. And if I leave you with 1 point, I think it's really important to recognize the role of the really cross-sector dynamics. A social innovator must be willing to cross disciplinaries, cross boundaries, and really leap towards the sky. Because today, with technology and all the things we have in our disposal, there's really ways to do that. We need to shift the rules, shift the relationships, take all we have in our power, and bring it to another level. A lot of people have great ideas, but an idea does not make you a successful social innovator, a successful social entrepreneur. What will make you a successful social entrepreneur is using all your networks, bridging them together, being kind of a social alchemist, really, in a way. And in order to bring together the ideas, experiences, skills, and resources and only then something new can really come out of it. And I think really you should take the networks that you have. The TGELF network is a wonderful and remarkable network. You're all here, but really take advantage of it, because it can really take you to new highs. And I think a very interesting article that I read a few years back was Grenzo Metter wrote about it, about the strength of weak ties. And the strength of weak ties talks about how in your strategic networks and the people that you acquire along the way and the people that you have in your network really get you most of your jobs, really advance you in your world, especially today in a global world that we're a part of. So I think really take it as that. I know for me, I'm a part of like 10 different networks. I'm a part of the World Economic Global Shapers. I'm a part of the ROI community, which is a part of the Schusterman Foundation. We have the Harvard Alumni Network. There's a lot of different networks, and only by using them all. And when I co-founded my first social venture called Contribute, one of the things that I used was really all the networks. And I think without those networks, I would have not succeeded in putting the idea forward. Because an idea is one thing, but taking it to the next level, you need to really use all the powers that you have. So keep it global, use your networks, and with that, we'll all go to lunch, I guess.
Now we just quickly play the role of the moderator. Thank you everybody for the patient hearing. I'm sure there are no questions. I just have one question. Which way out for lunch? That's it. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all our panelists for showing us how we as individuals can affect change.